What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's officially 2026, and I know, yeah, where the heck have I been? Well, we obviously ended the last video that I was actually producing, and not just like, hey, this is me driving around the country, with the fact that we were struggling to make it to the SCCA National Runoffs. There's some great news. We ended up making it. We ended up finishing second by an absolute miracle. And that's because, well, we had our fair share of problems. So the first problem, and the first real problem we had to get to the SCCA National Runoffs was, well, the car didn't seem to like to shift. So, well, even though it's not pretty, this is what we did. All these exposed wires here are just an actual curlicue bypassing the pins inside this for the critical aspect of shifting. So theoretically, even though some of the pins were working for the connector that, you know, is in the splines of the steering wheel, the critical ones, which go to the up and down shift buttons, we just hardwired them in to the car using a curlicue. Now that's the off season, we get to tear that all out and make it nice and pretty. But that was a brilliant Band-Aid fix to get us, you know, through the SCCA National Runoffs. The other issue that almost kept us from going to the SCCA National Runoffs was, well, we had an engine show up just in time, but we didn't have a tune for it. Thankfully, Frank and Shad both worked together. Shad with the dyno, Frank with the tuning. We were able to actually map the engine on a dyno before leaving for the SCCA National Runoffs. And I want to say we mapped it less than 72 hours before we put the car in the trailer and left California for Wisconsin. And the third and truly most critical problem we ran into is with my uprights that are currently not on the car. By the way, if you don't care, that right there is the bodywork from store chassis number 1. Yep. Good luck, everybody. That's mine forever. Anyways, what I think my main problem was this entire time wasn't the brakes. It was not even remotely tied to the brakes. It was, needless to say, heat. Let's see if this is hot enough. So this is my upright, and let's see. Oh yeah. So this is just, I overheated it, but as you can see, this was my knockback. Upsy downsy, upsy downsy, upsy downsy, upsy downsy, upsy downsy. So yeah, when I serviced these uprights, they had already probably exceeded their service life. Can't hold the bearing in with a little bit of heat. Totally foobarred the runoffs. Ugh! So the bearing walking in the upright would have caused all the problems I was experiencing. A soft or inconsistent brake pedal. We were down on mile an hour for a very long time, so we would see the parasitic drag of the brakes. We had some inconsistent handling issues that we couldn't nail down. I should also say that we were actually able to catch one of the bearings malfunctioning or walking, and that was in the right rear. Lee Alexander was kind enough to let us borrow an upright. Thank you again, Lee. The reason we left the left rear unaccounted for or unable to notice it is, well, I always made right-hand turns into my pit space. So that would always force that left rear bearing back into place. And then by the time we had the car up and in the air to give it a shake and wiggle, everything was cooled down so we could not notice the slop in the bore. Now, I know what you're thinking. Normally, as a race car driver, not winning is not fun. But realistically, at the point that I started the race at the SCCA National Runoffs, I had really arrived at the solution that I'm starting 6th. Anything above 6 is going to be a massive win. And when I started the race, I definitely didn't think I had any possibility of getting to the podium. So finishing second is not finishing first, but second is an outstanding result given the hardship me, Steve, and Jessica went through. And finishing second to Jason Miller Well, I'll take that. They had worked harder and fought more gremlins than we had with their Kohler 2-stroke. All because they got hit with a last-minute additional restrictor. 2 millimeters per cylinder, so 6 cylinders, that's 12 millimeters of restriction. And it sounds hilarious, but that just throws off the entirety of the air fuel for that engine. They were burning up pistons, burning up cylinders, and I think they went through 4 motors or maybe another motor. I'm not sure. But I thought I was having a tough weekend, and I'd walk by the Kohler guys, and I was like, that car's in half again? So, again, congratulations to Jason, and congratulations to the Kohler guys on their first national championship. And I think he just won the Mark Donahue Award. Congratulations on that as well. Look forward to racing again next year. But obviously, we've got some R&R work to do in the off-season, even though it's the beginning of the year and the racing has started. It's not started for me. There's work to be done. We'll get to that in a minute. We should probably also cover what else has been happening, because frankly, you know, it's been 3 months since the runoffs. What the heck have I been doing? Well, my childhood friend Kyle, he's got the 67 Mustang. I have my 69 Camaro, and his 67 Mustang needed a little bit of help. Mainly, we had issues with the front fog lights. We also had an issue with the filler neck. That whole system leaked, so we had to reinstall parts for that for him. And we also, unfortunately, had issues with one of the rear window regulators. We also had to do a little bit of a stereo upgrade. And, of course, make sure all the general running gear was up and running with fluid changes for the differential, the transmission, the engine, along with just general service items for the exhaust, because everybody knows that headers leak. But now the Mustang, with a paint work and with the new convertible top, is ready for its permanent life back down in LA. So one of the other things we tried to do is we tried to get Jessica into a race car. Now, we successfully did that. The problem was we did it at the last regional race at Buttonwillow Raceway Park, where they have the new circuit. And the problem with what happened was we chose the weekend where California decided it wanted to turn itself into a lake. The conditions were just not ideal for Jessica's first race weekend. We went down there, we tried the test day. People were actually spinning out going down the straightaway with the rain tires for the Spec Racer Ford, which, if anybody knows how good those rain tires are, that means it's pretty outstandingly bad conditions. So we just decided not the right day, not the right weekend for her to go out and have her first race weekend. So we're going to do that in about a month's time. But the real golden gem is what we found out after we got back from Buttonwillow. Without further ado, let me introduce you to a beautiful pair of Formula Vs. Now, both of these have some pretty outstanding significance, especially to my girlfriend Jessica and I. You see, this car right here is the car that she raced and won her solo national championship in SCCA Autocross in 2004. The sad start about this story is the fact that she shared the seat with her dad Mike, who unfortunately is no longer with us. But her dad, Mike, was a very accomplished driver, winning the June sprints, not just as a driver, but as an engine builder as well. He not only built his own engines, but he also delivered customer engines. That's what we'll get to talking about with this car here in a little bit. But to go autocrossing, they clearly put on bigger tires, did a couple of other modifications, and of course went with a bigger engine. So normally your Formula Vs will run a 1200cc engine, but this one is at least a 1600cc engine. So this won't necessarily qualify for SCCA road racing, I believe, or vintage, I believe, at least in the Formula V category. We're still trying to figure this all out. But this was, for the longest time, the only remaining Formula V engine we knew to exist that was built by Jessica's dad, Mike. And then this car shows up. So at this point, I can officially get into talking about this beautiful little girl over here. First and foremost, thank you so much, Chuck and Inga. Yeah, this was a little miracle that popped out of nowhere. We had no idea this car existed until late October, early November. And normally people wouldn't think a little Formula V is that important, but it's really important to Jessica. And that's because, as I mentioned, this is an engine built by her father, the 1600cc, not a Formula V spec engine because it's obviously larger than what the normal size is, which is 1200cc, like the original Volkswagen engine. That's the miracle of this. So Chuck unfortunately stopped racing, I want to say, in 1990. That might have been his last race in this car. They put it away really well, and the car just sat. Tragedy, nonetheless, but the beauty of it is it turned into a beautiful time capsule, because this still carries one of Mike's 1200cc Formula V engines. So not only does Jessica have a little bit of piece of history with her dad here, but she has basically a perfect example of what her dad would have built to go road racing in Chuck's car behind me. And Chuck was ever so kind, and Inga as well, to allow this to find its way into Jessica's possession, and so we can make sure that we ensure that it is a time capsule and carries on a little bit of Mike's history, not just as a driver and an engine builder here, but as an actual Formula V engine supplier. So for now, that's gonna about cover it for this specific video. At least I got you guys up to speed as to what's been happening over the last couple of months. But the good news is, for better or for worse, we clearly have some pretty big projects ahead of us. We've obviously got to get both of these Formula Vs tip-top shape and race ready. We've got to get my store back together in better shape, ready to get qualified to go back to the SCCA National Runoffs this year. We've also got to rescue my Camaro from tarp purgatory, so that will be a part of the projects we tackle this year. Plus, we have a really exciting mystery project that I'm not quite sure I can disclose quite yet, because I still have to tell people I bought a car. But in the meantime, thank you all for being patient. Thank you all for following along, and look forward to more videos here in the very near future. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you in the next video.